Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Pole Shift News. Guys, big thanks as always to those few, and there is only a few that support the channel, the website and the research. And if you'd like to make a contribution towards this, what we do on this channel, the link's down there below. We're over at JPL's studio, and we're looking at the recent footage from the Cassini spacecraft that's visited the North Pole of Saturn. What's puzzling those people over there at JPL is this hexagon pattern that's formed around the North Pole, and they're not sure as to whether it is a hurricane or not. You know, I could take this a little bit further, right? First of all, they don't mention the magnetic North Pole, they just say the North Pole. So we know it's the rotational axis that they're looking over, and we can see this, you know, weird jet stream pattern. And it is very strange to get a hexagon pattern forming over the North Pole of the planet, I think. I think there's more to it. And, you know, you might think, oh, maybe you shouldn't delve into these things, but I think it's relevant, even if it's just for the geometry relevance, if nothing else. I mean, we could be looking equally at a three-dimensional cube if we was to put the other two or three lines on that. That's exactly what we would be looking at, and the centre would be on the corner. The reason why I mention this is because I've seen this a lot on crop circles. I'm going to show you some of the crop circles in a minute, and I'll show you some more footage of this unique pattern that's formed over there. But the important point I want to make is that they don't mention anything at all about a magnetic North Pole, or whether they even know whether there's a magnetic North Pole in the centre. And I would put money on it that that is what's holding that jet stream in position, as is on Earth. But if we look over the top of our planet, and we might as well do that at the jet streams, so let's get that up. And what we'll see, first of all, is it looks nothing at all like Saturn's North Pole. And that's because our magnetosphere and magnetic poles have weakened, you know, around about 25% of what it should be, say, 40, 50 years ago. And the jet streams are not even in the positions they should be. There should be one at 30 degrees, which is your polar jet stream, and one at 60 degrees, which is your subtropical. And just looking over the northern hemisphere, or the North Pole, you can see that they're both intermingled, and I wouldn't have said either one was in the true positions that it should be. I think just before we have a look at some more Cassini photographs, you might as well have a look at the jet streams from the equatorial region as of today. So you can see what I'm saying, you know, that there isn't a nice, neat or, you know, wavy as there used to be jet stream around 30 degrees, and there's neither the subtropical jet stream around 60 degrees, neither on the northern hemisphere of this planet or on the southern hemisphere of this planet. And just before we leave, we might as well have a look over the Antarctic region or the South Pole to see that that is the case. So what we'll do, we'll have a look at a few more images first of all, before we have a look at some of these crop circles. I know what you're thinking, but just bear with me. I think you'll find it, if nothing else, coincidental. Okay, so let's have a look at some of these images then of the North Pole on Saturn. Let's go through a few. What's interesting to me is that it does form this perfect hexagon pattern, and there does seem to be this little border pattern around the edge of it. And you know, what is it that puts up you know, the system in place to form such a pattern in the first place over a planet covering, you know, thousands of miles? It's very unusual. It's got to be one of the most unusual planets in our solar system, with its ring in any case, Saturn has. But then, you know, just to add even more to the mystery, you get this strange anomaly appearing over the northern hemisphere, over the polar region. So let's have a look then at some of these crop circles that I've been talking about, because I think there is some significant similarities, and I'll point out a few other things as well of interest that I thought was worth mentioning about in this video at least. So let's do that. So let's have a look at some of the similarities in these crop circles with regards to the geometry or geometric shapes that have formed, or the shape that has formed on the polar region of Saturn. I'm not saying that there's anything connected between the two. I'm just saying that it is unusually similar in nature, and the geometry seems to revolve around divisions of 144, and I know that for a fact. I've actually done some calculations with regards to these patterns. Now, I'm not saying that these are done by UFOs, but someone seems to feel that the geometry is of relevance because they go to a lot of work to put these geometric shapes into these fields, and some of them are pretty amazing. We've heard the professional opinions of people that say that there's no way that these could have been done by humans, but I'm not going to put that up for argument. I'll leave that for you to make up your own decisions on. But for some reason, there is a lot of crop circles that have that hexagon pattern, first of all, and there is a connection between the number 144. You can work it out for yourself. The divisions of some of these geometric patterns are also divisions of 144, such as the number 36 times 4 and 72 times 2. Get back to the number 144. And I know some of you guys out there that are interested in some of the stuff that we've done with regards to the Bible and Bible numbers that reoccur a lot, such as the 144 cubits, the 144,000 people, made up of the 12 tribes, etc., etc. It's a sort of like a back burner project for me, because I really believe that whoever was writing that book certainly had knowledge of the flare of life pattern, and the geometry within that pattern is again similar to these crop circles and similar to that polar region on the Saturn's North Pole. Now, I'm not saying, that there are intelligent life forms out there that are responsible for putting these patterns down on the ground on Earth as a sort of warning sign for us. Maybe, it's just a coincidence that we are going through a magnetic reversal, and that pattern on the North Pole region of Saturn is just nothing but a coincidence. But I'm just sharing this with you. I think it's interesting, and I think whoever's done these patterns seriously went to a lot of work to do that, or it could quite easily be, something else that put them down. And I have an open mind to this simply because of what I've witnessed personally with my own eyes. So, I'm just putting it out there. I did mention to you guys the fact that you could look at that pattern as a hexagon or as a three-dimensional cube. Now, this pattern here definitely resembles that. What I was talking about the numbers in the 144. First of all, there are around that cube, right, 144 triangles. You can see that it's made up of 4 sets. The first 2 sets make up 72. The second 2 sets make up, the 144. Or each ring consists of 36 triangles. And, I found this very same pattern. A lot of people have overlooked it on an old temple in Osiris in Egypt. And, you can see that this flower of life is on it's on a few of the walls, but you can also, if you look very closely, see that it's got a border pattern made up of these triangles, and there is 144 of them. Now, in the centre of this crop circle, you've got lots of cubes, and the corner one, if you're looking at it as a three-dimensional one, where the star is in the middle, you can see the corner one has been removed, and you are able to see the star in the centre. So, if we go back, if you have a look at that Cassini photographs, you'll see that there is, a three-dimensional cube, and in the centre is that circle. I'm just saying that this is a coincidence, especially with the research that goes on this channel, because we're talking about planetary mechanics, and we're also talking about a particular region of that planet, which is the polar regions, because of, in my view, and has been for a long time now, a lot of things that make a planet livable depend on what's over those polar regions, and more so the magnetic North Pole. Now, they're saying over the polar region that they're unsure why the jet stream, or that hurricane pattern, which has formed that hexagon, they're not sure why it is over that region and what's caused it. They've not even mentioned at all that that could be due to a strong magnetic field of one of its dipoles, or polar one of the magnetic poles of that planet. They've not even mentioned it. I just find it really strange that they would emit something that they know occurs on this planet and not even mention it at all. It's just bizarre. But we've talked about a few things in this video. We've talked about the Bible numbers, or the Bible code numbers. There is, believe me, there is a series of numbers that repeat themselves in the Bible. Like, we know 1212s make up 144, and there is 12,000 of these tribal members that make up the 144,000 during the times of tribulations. Right? We know that this thing that's going to be descending, which is described as in the Bible as the bride, right, will have a wall 144 cubits in length. What I'm saying to you is, for some reason, these numbers were put into this book at the specific points at which they was put in the book, I believe, for a reference for a later point in time. I think that they knew that at some point in time, the people that was, around in that time would figure out what the relevance of that was. Maybe, what I'm not saying here, guys, is, it's a serious topic. First of all, the pole shift, the news is, we're talking about a real anomaly that's taking place during our point in time. It hasn't happened for the last 780,000 years. It's a rare event, and it's an unusual rare event in the fact that it's taken another 500,000 years to occur this time round. People are talking right now about the increase in cancer rates. Some people are just putting it off as to, to say, oh, there's more people on this planet now than there ever has been. That's true. But, with a weakened magnetosphere, it'll also mean that there'll be more inbound cosmic rays, which are, if you like, carcinogenic, cancer-causing. So, there is talk now slowly creeping out about the significances of a weakened magnetosphere. It's going to get worse because the magnetosphere is just decaying as time goes on. I know it isn't going to go, flash, overnight. We're not going to lose the magnetosphere completely. We are going to get to a point where there is going to be no protection during that magnetic reversal. From the research that we've conducted on this channel, to the best of my abilities, with what I've had at hand, and as you guys know, I always make the very most of what I've got, or, I try and do my best with what I've got. We know that when it gets into them weak field lines, things will increase in pace and move a lot quicker. And when they do, we are going to go through a magnetic reversal. And that will mean during that point in time where there is, no defined north or south pole, there will be no magnetosphere either. There will be no protection at all. for people on the surface, as well as all the biological life forms or biodiversities that's on the surface as well. And your government have prepared you for this? In what way exactly? You know, they've told us, they've told people, and I'm not blaming the actual people that work there, I'm blaming the management in some of these organisations. They have told people that this is 1,000 years off, and it's not. It's nowhere near it. It's a lot shorter than that. It's not 1,000 years off like they're saying. It's clearly not, and we're seeing signs now of that pole preparing almost to go into them wheat field lines. We know that for a fact because now the magnetic North Pole is deviated off that vector. Well, this is a sign that something's changed, guys. We've seen this happen 3 times already, where it has increased speed, covered more distance over that time, short periods of time. We've seen it go up a gear like 3 times. Now we've seen it deviate off its vector that it was heading for the last 100 years. We're getting closer to an event happening on this planet. I really believe that. Whether these crop circles are to do with that in some way, I cannot 100% say. All I can say is that there is a lot of things that if you're open-minded enough, you might think that, yeah, we could be being told here by something or somebody, you know, that there is a significant factor with regards to, you know, the poles on other planets in this solar system. And, you know, it has a reference on a lot of other things. But for some reason, you know, they are always showing, the majority of the time, the same geometry. Why is that? Why do they always use the same geometry is what I'm saying. I dare say some people will think that's an Illuminati one. But, you know, just putting it out there, I just thought, you know, I don't know what that's got to do with these. Maybe she thought it'd be a good idea to have a crop circle on her back, I don't know. But, you know, there is plenty of evidence to support, you know, a very likelihood that these mean more than just, you know, pretty patterns in the ground, I think. I just thought I'd share that with you guys. So I'm going to leave it here. I'll leave it with you guys to ponder. I just thought it was worth mentioning the Cassini spacecraft going over the North Pole of, you know, Saturn, and that unusual pattern that's formed over there. And it just brought my mind back to this, some of this research that I did with regards to these crop circles. And, you know, I just thought I'd mention some of the mathematical numbers, if you like, or the, you know, the formula of what's in the Bible. And, you know, I'll leave it with you to think about it. But they're interesting in any case, and I think they're nice. Whoever's done, you know, whatever has been responsible for putting them there on these fields. Okay, some might say, well, they're, you know, they're reckless. It's actual criminal, what they've done, but, you know, I think it's nice, in some way. So guys, I'm going to leave it with you to think about that. And, you know, I'll say what I usually do. You know, you take care. And as always, before I do leave, there's a link down there if you want to contribute towards the channel. It's not mandatory. It just helps things, you know, keep going on this channel, keep us doing what we're doing. And, you know, there's always a few people. And, you know, I do try my best on every video. At the beginning, the first thing is to thank them people for supporting the channel and the work that we do here. And I hope you find it, if nothing else, just better than watching some of the garbage on the mainstream media and the TV today. You know, it's just, I hope you find it interesting, if nothing else. So I'll leave it there. So link down there, guys. And as always, you take care. Bye for now. Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Pole Shift News. Guys, big thanks as always to those few, and there is only a few that support the channel, the website and the research. And if you'd like to make a contribution towards this, what we do on this channel. The link's down there below. We're over at JPL's studio, and we're looking at the recent footage from the Cassini spacecraft that's visited the North Pole of Saturn. What's puzzling those people over there at JPL extreme in position, as is on Earth. But if we look over the top of our planet, and we might as well do that at the jet streams, let's get that up. And what we'll see, first of all, is it looks nothing at all like Saturn's North Pole. And that's because our magnetosphere and magnetic poles have weakened, around about 25% of what it should be, say, 40, 50 years ago. And the jet streams are not even in the positions they should be. There should be one at 30 degrees, which is your polar jet stream, and one at 60 degrees, which is your subtropical. And just looking over the northern hemisphere, or the North Pole, you can see that they're both intermingled, and I wouldn't have said either one was in the true positions that it should be. I think just before we have a look at some more Cassini photographs, you might as well have a look at the jet streams from the equatorial region as of today. So you can see what I'm saying, that there isn't a nice, neat or, wavy as there used to be jet stream around 30 degrees, and there's neither the subtropical jet stream around 60 degrees, neither on the northern hemisphere of this planet or on the southern hemisphere of this planet. And just before we leave, we might as well have a look over the Antarctic region or the South Pole. Is this hexagon pattern that's formed around the North Pole, and they're not sure as to whether it is a hurricane or not. I could take this a little bit further, right? First of all, they don't mention the magnetic North Pole, they just say the North Pole. So we know it's the rotational axis that they're looking over, and we can see this, weird jet stream pattern, and it is very strange to get a hexagon pattern forming over the North Pole of the planet, I think. I think there's more to it. And, you might think, oh, maybe you shouldn't delve into these things, but I think it's relevant, even if it's just for the geometry relevance, if nothing else. I mean, we could be looking equally at a three-dimensional cube if we was to put the other two or three lines on that. That's exactly what we would be looking at, and the centre would be on the corner. The reason why I mention this is because I've seen this a lot on crop circles. I'm going to show you some of the crop circles in a minute, and I'll show you some more footage of this unique pattern that's formed over there. But the important point I want to make is that they don't mention anything at all about a magnetic North Pole, or whether they even know whether there's a magnetic North Pole in the centre. And I would put money on it that that is what's holding that jet